So I'm Tom Bowman, I'm the VP of Strategy and Operations for the advertising business for BBC Worldwide. BBC Worldwide is the commercial arm of the BBC broadcasting organisation, which is of course a public service inside the UK. Outside of the UK, all our activities are funded entirely commercially, either by advertising or by other means. We have a very popular, in fact conceivably the world's largest news website, certainly from a broadcaster point of view, with 60 odd million people coming every month around the world. A very strong audience in Belgium and elsewhere across Europe. I'm here today to present a study around how consumers are changing their consumption of news and how they actually are really, to a great extent, already ahead of the advertisers. They are very interested in getting the news when they want it and how they want it. And so we've begun to not talk about platforms anymore. We tend to think of it as whichever piece of glass they're looking through. You have a situation where the consumer is expecting to get the same experience, expecting to be able to see the same videos, expecting to be able to see the same news content as up to date, regardless of which piece of glass they're looking through, be it a very little bit of glass that they put in their pocket or be it a great big bit of glass that they see across the room. Because as far as we're concerned, televisions, as you might conceive them, are digital devices as well. We've had a app on our smart TVs for some time now, and we get a lot of traffic. And to be honest, inside the BBC, when we curate the news and we have presenters and we spend all day putting the news together, you wonder why anyone would go on an app and read the news off an app. And then you think about it a little bit more and you watch the traffic patterns and you see that what they're actually doing is picking the bits of news that they want at the moment that they want it. And so the research, which is a very large piece of work with more than 3,500 people across 9 different countries around the world, indicated that the upmarket news consumer will pick up whichever piece of glass is convenient to them and will go from one to the other for different purposes depending on where they are and what they're doing. So if you happen to be sitting on the train coming in from the airport to the Egg in Brussels, then you're going to pick up the news most likely on a small piece of glass. Or if you've got a Wi-Fi connection on the train, which I didn't have this morning, then you might actually use a slightly larger piece of glass. And if you're prepared to wait for your PC to boot up, you might use that as well. But actually the convenience of these devices is changing media consumption. But the core thing is, of course, they still want that information when they want it. And they will probably punish publishers who do not actually keep up with them. What's the biggest challenge for the advertising industry? Well, the biggest challenge, as usual for the advertising industry, is not to innovate, because it doesn't tend to, but to keep up. One of the key things which is really interesting is the consumer's expectation, and we asked them in this survey, where and how would you expect the advertising to appear across these various bits of glass that you look through? And their answer was really interesting. Television is still quite prominent, but their expectation of how much advertising they will see on the different devices that they use is one of total acceptance that it should be there, and they kind of imagine that the technology will show the right advertisement in the right place across these different pieces of glass. Now, of course, that might be the biggest challenge yet for the advertising industry, and I'm even a little bit cautious about talking about it as being the online advertising industry, because of course we're including the piece of glass which sits in the corner of your living room, and that is not many of us carry that around with us, and many of us think of it as being some other device. But actually, that's got computer chips in it as well, so it's all digital advertising as far as I'm concerned. So the big challenge for the advertising industry is to keep up with consumer expectations. I think the content producers, many of us, already are.